Hey there, let's take a look at another linear programming problem, and we're going to try to use this idea of guess, check, generalize again. So Aaliyah is working two summer jobs, maybe variables, making $7 per hour walking dogs and $10 per hour tutoring. In a given week, she can work no more than 17 total hours and must earn no less than $140. All right. Also, she must work at least 2 hours walking dogs and at most 13 hours of tutoring. If X represents the number of hours walking dogs and Y represents the number of hours tutoring, write and solve a system of inequalities graphically and determine one possible solution. Okay, so here's where when you're guessing, you have to say, well, does that work for this part? Does that work for this part? And see how things start to unwind. So let's take a guess about how many hours of work she needs to do walking dogs. So if X represents the number of hours walking dogs, and I'm going to highlight that, X, number of hours walking dogs, and Y represents the number of hours tutoring, let's take some guesses. So we have X, that's dogs, and Y, that's tutoring. So I want you to write these in your paper, and I want you to start taking some guesses. All right, and now think about the constraints of what this says to make your guesses make sense. But if you can't do that yet, any guess will do. So I like to say, all right, dogs and tutoring, let's say I'm going to walk dogs 5 hours. All right, then I can say, okay, if I walk dogs 5 hours, is there anything here that limits how many hours I can tutor? Okay, so if I can only do 17 hours total, right, I need these two together to be a total of 17 hours. I like that idea, right? And so 5 and what is 17? Well, 5 and 12 hours is 17. And I like to think through that because that's one of our constraints. And you should be able to read this and say, oh, 17 total hours. So tutoring, dogs, 17. Now, how much money did we make? All right, and so dogs, let's see, read my things. It says $7 per hour walking dogs. So I'm going to highlight that green. And then how much for tutoring? $10 an hour tutoring. All right. So you're like, yeah, I do more tutoring, silly. Yeah, right. Okay. So for dogs, 5 hours times, $7. And I like to put the number on the inside that I'm 7 times 5, right? And then I'm going to add that to how much I make tutoring. So $10 per 12 hours. I want that to be no less than 140. No less than 140. So let's see. Do I want this to be bigger than 140 or 140 to be less than what I'm making? Well, I want my money to be more than 140. So I put this sign this way, right? I want this to be bigger than 140. Let's see if it works. And I'm going to put a little question mark here because we don't know if that's true yet or not. 7 times 5 is 35 plus 10 times 12 is $120. Those together are, let's see, get my face out of there again. 35 plus 120, $155. Is that greater than 140? Yes. Okay, so this guess works. So I'm going to say, yes, that guess works. And then let's try a couple more guesses and see what numbers we need to replace over here. All right, so this one works. Let's say I'm going to walk 10 hours of dogs, okay? How do I know how much I have here? That's right, 10 and something has to be 17. And so 10 and 7 hours. Okay, 10 and 7 is 17. Yep, that works so far. So this plus this is this. Okay. Now what do we replace? So where did I put my 12 hours? I put it right here. Okay? And where did I put my 7 hours or my 5 hours? I put that right here. So if I'm going to do this again, I'm going to replace this. And hopefully you have more space that you can just not erase. You can just do another line. All right. so then let's see if this will work. I'm going to do my second equation. I'll leave this one up here. My second equation is, now it's $7 times what? Okay, I guess 10 this time, plus $10 times 7 hours. Is that bigger than $140? Let's see. That would be 70. 10 and 7, that's 70. That is 140. So that's equal to 140. Must earn no less. Oh, so she could equal 140. So that's actually less than or equal to. Less than or equal to. Yeah, that one works too. So that also works. All right. So for sake of time, right? Let's just guess X this time, and let's guess Y this time. So X and Y together have to be what? She can work no more than 17 hours. Oh, so these have to be less than or equal to 17, because my hours together need to be less than or equal to 17. So that would work. So I could have guessed a whole bunch of different hours, but I like this, right? If it's equal to 17, all right, so we say X plus Y less than 17. Then what do I plug in here? So instead of 10, right, I'm going to plug in what? And instead of 7, what am I going to plug in? So it's $7 times X plus $10 times Y, and that has to be greater than or equal to 140. So here I have two really awesome equations that I've created, or inequalities, right? There's one, and then this one, here's another. So what other equations do we need? What other limits do we have? Also, she must work at least so she has to work at least 2 hours walking a dog, and at most 13 hours of tutoring. So how do I say at most 13 hours of tutoring? If Y is tutoring, I need Y to be equal to 13? No. I need 13. It needs to be less than 13. All right, so less than or equal to 13, because she can't have more than 13. Then dog walking, there's something with 2. I need it to be at least 2, so it has to be equal to 2, or it could be bigger. And so here's the two constraint problems that I have. All right, write those down in your notebook, and then let's head to the graph. Okay? All right, so I'm going to head to the Desmos calculator. You're probably zoomed in really super close. Remember, use that scroll bar or zoom in or out. Let's type in our first equation that we came up with, saying X plus Y, right? The number of what? And the number of what? Now I forgot our problem altogether. The number of hours walking the dog, X, and the number of hours tutoring, Y. That has to do what? Those have to be no more than, right? So less than or equal to 17 hours. Oh, so here we go. So this represents all 17 hours, right? I could have 17 of one, or I could have 17 of the other, and every combination in between. All right. Although we remembered that our Y, right, the number of hours tutoring, couldn't be any more than what? 13. So look what this does. Oop, I screwed that up. It's that this symbol equals, and then it, so there we go. So notice this is 13 all the way across. So it has to be less than 13. So we can't do 17 of it in this. We have to start here at 13 and below. So the most that we could do was 13 and 4 of dog walking. But we also know that X has to be greater than 2, so greater than or equal to 2 hours. And look at what this does. This is all 2, and so everything over here works. And so now we have new constraints, right? 213, 413, and down here. All right, and you can see that this is the overlap that's happening. Finally, we found our money equation, right? We need to make at least $140. And so $7 times every hour of dog walking plus $10 for every hour of tutoring has to be at least $140 because you need to pay those bills. All right. And here then we get this really interesting overlap of all of our different ideas. So we need to find all these points of interest that we could have, right? So this could be 213, 413, 10:7, and this is 2 hours dog walking, 12.6 hours of tutoring, but you're probably not going to just tutor for 0.6 hours, although you could, to get those minimums met. Also, remember, any number that falls inside of here, so like if I just wanted to put a number right here, zoom in, what's this point? Right, it looks like 11 or 511. Let's just put the point in 5,11 and see what happens there. We could say, well, does this point work? And so let's take a look at our equations, right, and see, will this point work, 511, if it falls inside of that constraint? And so what I would do is I'd take my money equation, 7 times 5 plus 10 times 11, is that greater than or equal to 140? Well, we get 35 plus $111. That's $145. Yes, we would make enough money to pay the bills. All right. And so that is all of your work in a nutshell. The guess check, generalize, using your Desmos graph to graph these and find points. But then, like all of these other possibilities are all ways that you can make at least $140 while following each of your constraints. All right, good work. Keep trying.